All right, let's talk about top rollers from last week.
August 18th to 24th,
Yes.
and we have a tie for second.
Tie for second place. In second place this week, we have Paige Wheeler.
And Ellie Ray, great job, well done.
Congratulations.
Only one in first place.
One in first.
Simone Marquez, congratulations, you're getting the AO sample pass.
Yeah,
AO Scan sample
six-pack
pass.
of the AO Scan sample passes. We'll get those on your account. Congratulations to you. All right, today we have one of our favorites on the call, Deb Bruce.
Let's jump into another system of the body, and that's going to be the urinary system. It's really surprising how much the urinary system ties in with so many different parts of the body. There's different organs, glands, and systems that are connected with the urinary system, and it affects them and they affect it. The systems that are involved with it: cardiovascular, endocrine, nervous system, lymphatic, skeletal, digestive, and respiratory. Is that kind of surprising to you? Well, it's really interesting how much those tie in with the urinary system. So cardiovascular, the kidneys filter the blood. They are involved with the cardiovascular as far as helping to regulate blood pressure by working with the adrenals, the lungs, the liver. There is an impact on blood volume and the concentration of particles in the blood. It also has a direct correlation between the urinary system and the cardiovascular as far as influencing the movement of water across cell membranes. So here we have the picture of cardiovascular, and that is what we want to look at in our scanner to see if there's ones and nines, and then go in and see if there is a connection to the kidneys, the bladder, any of the connection between the two. How about the endocrine system? The kidneys stimulate red blood cell production in the bone marrow. And then there's a really tight relationship with the adrenals and the pituitary for different diuretic properties, and also aldosterone for water absorption and sodium levels. And these have a massive effect on the body. This is another very important tie between a system and the kidneys. When you're in your scanner, you're going to want to look at the endocrine system. One of the main components being that affects everything in the body is the relationship between the adrenals and the kidneys and the urinary system. Look for ones and nines in the kidneys and the adrenals and start to look and see how they're connected. This will really give you some valuable information and help you to work with different things in your scanner to assist the urinary system. You're going to want to look at the adrenals. Look at aldosterone. See if the aldosterone is coming up with a 1 or a 9. Look at the blood vessels. Look at the different things in the adrenals and think about the possible connection with the kidneys and with the urinary system. How about the nervous system? Well, with the nervous system, there's signals between the nervous system and the bladder in order to allow urination. If it's not working correctly, then there can be different problems with urinating. There's also a tight relationship with the muscles of the bladder and the urethra to allow them to constrict and to relax. And this is what gets involved with the ability for urination. How about the nervous system? Nervous system wise, when you're looking at that, what would you look at? Look at the spine. Now, not just the spine. In your scanner, you have the nerves of the upper body, the nerves of the lower body. You've got all of the other connections that you can scan. And you can start and look and see, are there any components in the urinary system that have 1s or 9s? And are there any in the nervous system that have 1s and 9s? And then go into your reports and see if it starts listing the nervous system under the kidneys, or the kidneys or the bladder or any part of the urinary system under the nervous system, so that you start to see the tight correlation between the two. And then you can go farther in your reports to see what are the causes that are causing the 1s and 9s, and how can you help that whole urinary system or the organ glandular system that is showing up as being connected with a frequency energetic problem between the two. How about lymphatic system? The urinary system affects the amount of lymph fluid in the body and fluid surrounding the cells by influencing the balance of the different solids and water in the body. When you consider the function of the lymphatics and you think about all of the views that you have in your scanner with all the possibility of the parts of the lymphatics that you can help, which will then assist with the urinary system, it's massive what you can do in looking again at the lymphatic system, at the urinary system, and consulting your reports to see if there is a connection between the two and what is coming up as the cause of that connection. Skeletal system is very much involved. The urinary system, in particular the kidneys, regulate the calcium and phosphate levels in the blood, and that directly impacts your bone health. It also impacts your muscle function. Vitamin D relies on the kidneys to be activated, and this also relates to your bone health, and it also has a direct relationship with calcium absorption. So you can start to see here that the urinary system, the kidneys, the bladder, the system in general, has a lot to do with a lot of things that are going to be showing up in your scanner. Here again, look at the different parts of the skeletal system and see if there is a connection in your reports between the skeletal system and the urinary system. How about digestive system? We know that the gut always comes up as being something that's really, really important. Well, the urinary system actually depends on the gut for the nutrients that it needs in order to function correctly. And the gut needs to process the water and electrolytes that the kidneys help to balance. So here again, there's a very, very tight relationship between the gut and the way that the kidneys work in the urinary system. So you're going to want to look at your digestive system. You're going to want to look and see where the 1s and 9s are. And here again, you're going to want to go to your reports where you have scanned this system and any of these other systems that are associated. You need to scan both them and the urinary system to start to connect the dots and see the tight connection in the reports as far as what can be bothering these two systems. Respiratory system. The urinary system helps regulate the acid-base intricate balance in the body. And this is really important because it has a lot to do with the respiratory's ability to control and regulate carbon dioxide levels in the body. Think about if that particular system gets where it's out of balance. So you're going to want to also look and see how the respiratory system is doing. And once again, go back to your reports after you've scanned respiratory and the urinary system and see if there are causes in common between the two, if one is contributing to the other, or vice versa. This is going to be very valuable. Look at your respiratory system. Do lung lobes, which is a close-up of the respiratory system, and see if you can find in your reports different common hits, different common causes where you can work on it and actually help both of those systems to work better. You want to start with your inner voice, and you want to look for the emotions affecting the urinary system. Keep in mind that often the kidneys are affected by fear, and often the bladder comes up as having paralyzed will, feeling stuck. You'd want to use the emotions that are listed to do some playlists, and you also would want to do some mind sync statements, some positive statements that have to do with those emotions and with the organs, glands, or systems that are showing up as being affected with the kidneys, with the bladder, with any other system that we've talked about that has come up. Use your hormone and chemistry lists in body system scan to see if there are any irregularities that could be affecting the urinary system that we referenced earlier. Especially note when hydration shows up in your body systems reports, since this directly relates to the adrenals, to the kidneys, and all the systems that we talked about earlier. You want to scan all of the areas mentioned above. And then use your reports to connect the dots in connection with the urinary system, looking in particular at the kidneys and the bladder. Remember with Einstein, he always said about it being important in connection with frequencies and energy to find the physical components. You can work with frequencies, but if you don't work with the causes and the physical components, you're not going to see as much progress and see as much balance, homeostasis happening in those organs, glands, and systems. And when you put the energy of the urinary system with anything that you find in the cardiovascular, in the musculoskeletal, the nervous system, the endocrine system, when you put those energetic and physical components together, it literally, according to Einstein, works together like a hand in a glove. I see so many requests on Facebook from people that say, oh, what do I run as a playlist for this health problem? What do I run for a playlist for this other health problem? And the playlists are very, very important because they're addressing the emotions and you're able to pull in things from other parts of the Cephi and help. But the physical components that are found in reports are equally important. So you want to start combining the two and seeing what you can work with. What you find can be beautifully worked with using the different homeopathics, the different homeoenergetics, the new essential oils, the supplements in your back office. And then there's other direct applications such as the transducers, the infinity wand, using the mask, the RF cleanse, the 660 band, the hub. You have so many tools that are available for you to take the information that you get on any of these systems, organs, or glands that are connected with the urinary system and being able to use those to help those systems have better frequencies and to function better while addressing the causes. It's very much worth the time and effort to learn how to use all of these different tools and to apply them. I know it can be overwhelming sometimes, but maybe just take one a week and start to master the ability to not just use playlists and the frequencies, but to really dive into your reports and see what the causes are, and then go to the categories in your scanner that help you imprint and work with those different causes. Even things like the dots that you can use that you can imprint for different things. So there's research coming up that I found fascinating. More studies need to be done, but this will also help you realize the tie-in that we're going to start seeing even more and more in the future with the urinary system in our scanner. The couple of the studies that I came across was, one of them was the value of deep breathing for the elderly in connection with the bladder. So here again, you've got your respiratory system and the urinary system. They found that when people belly breathe, just, okay, it actually pushes down on the pelvis and pushes down on the bladder. And they're starting to feel that that can actually contribute to incontinence. Whereas when people deep breathe, it actually lifts up on the whole system and it lifts up on the whole urinary system as well as the bladder. So in the studies that they were doing, they were finding that the people that they had deep breathe that were elderly for X amount of weeks actually started having less incontinence and were doing better with that particular issue. Another one that I found was a study where what they're starting to find is that when people are older and they have just consistent bladder infections, like they just can't seem to get rid of them, that they used to just think it was all bacteria oriented, which when you are doing the urinary system, make sure that you check what's coming up under kidneys and bladder in the bacteria section. You can always go to your homeoenergetics and imprint a bacteria DT. But they found that a lot of people, when they couldn't find out what was going on, they're starting to see that they actually have neurological brain disorders starting, possibly like Alzheimer's and dementia, and that there is a tight connection with looking into if there's very early signs of that, if somebody consistently in their older age keeps getting bladder infections. Now, obviously, there are other contributors and other things that would be showing up, but I found it fascinating that they're starting to even see these type of connections with the brain, with the respiratory, and with the urinary system. So it's something else to keep in mind if you have somebody that is having bladder incontinence issues or having some neurological issues. Make sure you check the urinary system because you might get some very early energetic frequency clues, and that would be really valuable. Try expanding and taking use of all of the tools that you have available with you. Dive into your scanner and help this all-important system that ties in with everything else, the urinary system.